So let me ask you just a quick question. Okay. How many of you out there have written a check for AU basketball and sat in some random parking lot or some random gym wondering, where did my money actually go? All right, now let me ask you, how many of you have sat down and watched a kid sit on the bench during a tournament that you drove 4 hours to get to? Now, how many of you have felt like something about this whole youth basketball system is just a little bit off, but you just can't put your finger on quite what it is? Now, listen, I'm here to tell you that feeling that you feel deep down on the inside is correct. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why it is that you feel these ways. Now, listen, my name is Caleb Sauce Harris. Now, I grew up, again, in Chicago. I played basketball at every single level there really is. Inner city, rec league, JUCO, high school, all that, And, what I learned during that time of just being around the game, it really changed the way that I see the game, especially when I ventured out on my own and I started developing kids within, my own stratosphere. I was able to develop a lot of kids, who came in with no skills. They came in with no confidence. They came in with no actual direction of where they needed to go. But I saw them, they walked out on the other side. They really walked out disciplined, skilled, mentally tough athletes, and most importantly, more mentally tough human beings in general. But like I said, I've really seen this system from every single angle it is, from a player, from a trainer to a coach, and then somebody who just loves the game and who has chosen to give a lot of their life to it. So what I'm about to share with you tonight is really everything I wish, or everything I hope that, my parents and somebody's parents, somebody had told me, when I was coming up, because I really think I would have benefited from it. So listen, here's what we're going to go for today. The current state of youth basketball and why it's actually more broken than you think it is. We're going to think about the 3 biggest mistakes basketball parents are making and how it is that you can avoid them. I'm going to give you my complete player blueprint, how to develop a player. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of insight of what makes Chicago basketball different, why it matters, and why this might be some type of thing you might want to be incorporated into you and your young athletes' regimen. So I want you to stay with me till the end, because I'm also going to share something special for parents who are really serious about doing this the right way. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so segment 1, the current state of youth basketball. All right, so now listen, here's the actuality and the reality of youth basketball right now. Youth basketball, it is $1 billion industry. And really most of that $1 billion, whether you believe it or not, is coming straight out of your pocket. Now, the average family spending on youth basketball, whether it be, again, AAU fees, travel costs, hotel rooms, tournament, registration, uniforms, equipment, food there, this runs you anywhere from about $10,000 to $50,000 a year. And believe it or not, some families are actually spending more than that. You may be able to relate to that. But, the question that nobody wants to talk about, the question nobody really wants to ask out loud is, what is it that you're actually getting for your money? Because here's what the numbers actually are saying. Less than 4% of high school athletes play college basketball at any level. Less than 1% play Division I. And the odds of making the NBA, we're talking about 4 in 1 million. Now listen, I'm not telling you to crush your dreams. crush your kids' dreams. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm really just trying to tell you because I want you to make better decisions. And I want you to make these decisions based upon facts and not the advertised fantasy. Because the youth basketball industry knows the numbers. They really just don't tell you. They don't advertise to you about them because, they understand the minute you know the odds, they know that the minute you know that the odds are really against you, you're going to start to ask questions about where's my money going. Now, let's give a brief overview, just in case you didn't know, of what happened to youth basketball over the last 20 years. AAU exploded. Travel teams multiplied. Showcases, circuits popped up everywhere. And suddenly, there was this kind of idea that if your kid wasn't on a travel team by like 8, they were pretty much already behind the bar. Now listen, in my opinion, that's not player development. That's expert marketing. Because in my experience, as a player and coach and trainer, real player development is kind of it's repetitive. It really comes down to the individual skill work in the gym with a trainer who knows what they're doing. It's not about some tournament in Orlando or some fancy uniform or, having fun at the hotel swimming pool. But then we have the name, image, likeness. NIL came along and it changed everything again. Now young players can actually make money from their name, the image, and their likeness before they can actually even go to college. Now listen, this is a real opportunity for the right players who are developed in the right way. But it also created a whole new layer of hype and fanaticism and exploitation that parents in this new generation, they really need to understand. The youth basketball landscape is really more complicated than it ever has been. And that's why, I feel like me coming to you is important. And that's why that's why you need a blueprint. So let's continue. Segment number 2, the 3 biggest mistakes that youth basketball parents tend to make. Now listen, let's talk about the 3 biggest mistakes that I see a lot of, they don't mean to, but a lot of basketball parents, they tend to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. These are repetitive. These are constant. So I want you to go ahead and write these down to make sure you don't make them. All right. Number 1, they skip training and go straight to travel and AAU. Now listen, this is the most common and most expensive mistake in youth basketball there is. All right. I think what happens is a lot of parents, they see other kids on the travel teams and they panic. And they think their kid is falling behind. They say, "Oh, I'll sign up for AAU. I'll start paying tournament fees," and they think that suddenly the kid is paying. Suddenly the kid is playing 40 games a year. They go from playing 0 to 40 games a year. But here's the problem: if your kid, if he doesn't have those fundamental skills, if they're not able to dribble the ball under pressure, if their shooting form is broken, if they don't really understand basic footwork, then playing more games, that's not going to be the fix for that. Really, it's just incorporating, it's strengthening bad mistakes because they're practicing doing things the wrong way. This is the reason why I feel like proper training should always come first. And this is always. Think about it. You don't build a house starting with the roof, right? You build the foundation first. I think basketball development, it really works the same exact way. Skill training, whether it be individual, group, skill training focus, fundamentals, conditioning, confidence building. I think this has to happen before your kid steps onto any travel team, any AAU team. Otherwise you're really just paying this travel team the money to just enforce bad habits. Now listen, let's go to mistake number 2. Letting the dream drive the decisions instead of the data. Now, let's be honest. Every parent thinks their kid is special. And maybe they are. But special without proper development is just wasted talent at the end of the day. In my 15 years doing this, I've seen kids who were incredibly gifted. I've seen them get destroyed by the system simply because their parents chased this elaborate dream instead of actually building the athlete, building the child, building the player they had. They went to the most expensive showcases. They joined the most prestigious AAU team they could join, the elite team, right? And they did pretty much everything that the blueprint, everything the advertising, everything the industry tells them to do. And at the end of the day, the kid never got better because nobody really paid attention to them. Nobody actually developed them. Nobody actually took the time to do that. And then, there is. And listen, your kid might be talented. They might be very, very talented. But talent without development goes nowhere. Kevin Durant said it. Hard work with no talent, it doesn't matter. Talent with hard work means nothing, right? And listen, what's actually happening with your kids, you have to focus on, are they getting better every month? You have to focus on, are they improving every month, their fundamentals? You have to focus on, are they growing as a player? Is their confidence getting better? Are they working harder? Are they becoming more coachable? Are they picking up on things quicker? These are the questions that really matter. Not so much what tournament they're going to play in or what AAU team is, what elite AAU team, which is elite at a 17-year-old team, is worried about these 5th graders, 6th graders. No. Now listen, mistake number 3 is this. Simply just checking out as a parent. I want you to understand this. Basketball development, youth basketball development is not a drop-off service. I see this all the time. Parents, they write a check, they drop their kid off at practice or at the tournament. They think their job is done, like at school, right? They think he's gonna do it. But that's not the case with youth basketball. Everybody's out for themselves. Everybody's out for their own child. Your kid, they really need to be locked in. You need to be locked in. They need to understand, and you need to understand, you need to be committed on the journey with them. The kids need to see you engaged. They need to see you supporting them. They need to see that you're invested, not just financially, but emotionally and also mentally. Because when parents are checked in, kids tend to develop faster. What I see is when parents are checked out, kids tend to feel alone in the process. And with certain kids, their development stagnates and stalls in many cases. Basketball, man, a lot of people say it's no I in team. Basketball is a team game. And you and your child and the family, the support system, everybody has to be locked in. All right, we're in segment 3, the blueprint. What real youth basketball development actually looks like. Now listen, let's talk about what real youth basketball development looks like, at least in Caleb Sauce Harris's opinion. All right, now I like to call this the 4-phase blueprint. All right, now this is a framework that I have used for about 15 years training kids in the Chicagoland area. And from the results, I can tell you it works. All right, now phase 1 is the honest assessment. Now, before you do anything else, you need to know exactly where your kid actually stands recently, now, among others. Not where you hope they are, not where you think they are, not where the coach says they are, not where they're trying to keep you happy, where they're actually sitting right now. Where are they at? All right, this really means looking honestly at their current skill levels, looking at their athleticism, looking at their coachability, looking at their mental toughness, their genuine commitment level, looking at their actual work ethic. These things are important. These are intangibles. Because here's the truth. Not every kid who loves basketball is really built to be an elite player. Some kids have the talent. They don't have the commitment. They have the commitment, but they need a significant skill development in order to catch up. Some have both, but they just need the right system around them. Now, you as a parent and you as a support system, you need to know what category your kid is in before you spend another dollar out your wallet, all right? Before you pull out that wallet, figure it out. Now listen, phase 2, let's talk about the foundation building. This is where the real development happens. And hey, it's ugly sometimes, it's not glamorous. To be honest, let's just be for real. Okay, you got to go through dribbling drills. You got to work on shoe mechanics, footwork, conditioning, defensive positioning. You have to do this repetitively over and over again until it becomes second nature. Like tying your shoes or brushing your teeth, like I always tell kids. You don't think about those things. And this phase, it takes time. It takes patience, and it really requires a trainer who knows what they're doing and has the patience for it. And it can't be just somebody who's running your kid through drills. You know what I mean? They set the cones up and they got to go on, just to collect a check. A good trainer, he's going to be the person who watches your kids' mechanics constantly. He's making corrections. He's building confidence through repetition, right? He's tracking improvement. And he's also communicating with you about what they're seeing so you can reinforce as a support system. And listen, if your kid's trainer, if he can't or she can't tell you specifically what they're working on and why that's a problem and what this problem is going to fix, then it's a problem. Now, phase 3, this is a competitive integration of the athlete. Now, this is the show, right? This is where travel teams and AAU would actually make sense for a young athlete. And this is only once your kid has the proper foundation. You know, once their fundamentals are set, once they're solid, once their confidence is built to a certain level, once they understand and are comfortable playing a game, once they can play competitively, this will then accelerate the development. Because at this point, now they can take what they've learned in training and directly apply it to real game pressure. Now that travel AAU experience is an actual developmental value to you in your wallet, instead of just being some type of expensive clown show, you know, some expensive exposure event for no reason. This is also where you need to be smart. All right, be smart about which teams and which programs you choose. You need to look for programs who have real coaches who prioritize development over winning. You know, you need to look for appropriate competition levels. Look for programs that communicate with parents about, you know, what they're working on fundamentally and developmentally. And let me tell you one thing. This is real talk. If a coach promises you playing time, or your kid playing time before he's even practiced with the team, you need to walk away. Because that coach, that trainer is a salesman, right? It's not a development thing. Now, phase 4, brand invisible building. Now, this is not for most, but this is for players who have real talent. You know, they have been developed correctly over the course of time. You know, this phase is becoming actually more and more important now. With the name, image, likeness, the NIL, it's changing the youth of the landscape of basketball, the youth landscape of basketball. You know, younger and younger players, they're able to build a personal brand. They can create some visibility for themselves, monetarily, younger than ever before. But this means having the proper social media presence. Now, as much as I'm against it sometimes, it does mean having the appropriate highlight content. It means understanding how recruitment actually works and how to best get in front of the eyes, right, at the right time of recruitment. Now, again, this isn't for every kid, but I would say for the ones who have real potential and have been doing the work, this phase, again, I hate sometimes because, again, I wish during my time we could do that. But this phase can really open a lot of doors that didn't even exist, I would say, even 5 years ago. So. Segment 4, the Chicago perspective. All right, let me tell you a little something about Chicago basketball. Chicago doesn't produce players. I would say Chicago produces warriors. And the reason for this is when you grow up in Chicago and you play on the courts in the city of Chicago, you tend to learn things that no fancy training facility can teach you. And you learn how to compete when everything else is on the line. You learn how to handle pressure because it seems like every game feels like pressure. You tend to learn resilience because Nobody's handing you anything on a silver platter in the shot. And this doesn't happen like that. A young player, you tend to learn that the most talented player on the court, they aren't always the one who wins, but oftentimes is the hungriest one who does. Now, myself, I grew up in that. I played in that. I trained in that. I've trained players in that for the last 15 years. And everything I know about real player development comes from what those things growing up in Chicago on those blacktops, they taught me. And I would say the best lesson that Chicago basketball ever taught me was this. Heart matters more than height. Hunger matters more than highlight reels. And the work you put in when nobody is watching is what shows up when everybody's watching. And as a trainer, that's what I bring to every player I work with. Every young player, I bring that same fire. And that's really what I want to bring to you and your family as well. So, segment 5. What do you need to start doing tomorrow to implement many of the things we talked about? So look, I want to make this as easy and as practical, as factual, as actual as I can for you, right? So here are the 5 things you can start doing with your kid tomorrow that'll put you on the right path. If you're going left or right, we're going to get you to the right path, right? And number one thing is this. You and your child and all your other support system need to have a conversation, an honest conversation about your goal, about your goals and the level of commitment. Not about the NBA, but really about what they want to get out of the game of basketball. And then what they're willing to put in to get out. I think this conversation, that input-output is what it'll tell you a lot more than it'll tell you everything you need to know. Now, number 2, you need to do a current basketball audit. All right? Everything you're spending, ask yourself honestly. Right now, everything you're spending, is my kid getting better because of this investment that I'm making? Now, if you yourself, you can't make a clear yes with that, then there's really honestly some changes you need to make. Now, number 3, you evaluate your kid's current training situation. Are they getting individual skill development, group skill development, or are they just playing games and going to team practice? If it's just games and practice, then honestly, they're not being developed. And you and them, they're just being used. You're just being used. Now, number 4, you need to find out what your kid's coach is actually working on developmentally. What's the plan? You need to get really serious and ask specific questions. What fundamentals are you focusing on this month? Hey, how are you tracking my kid's improvement? Hey, what does my kid need to work on most? If that kid, if that coach or that trainer, they can't answer those type of questions in a clear and concise fashion, that tells you another important thing you need to know. All right. What's number 5? You need to get locked into yourself. As a parent, you need to commit to being present in your child's development. Not just financially, but mentally and also emotionally. It's very important that you show up. It's very important to pay attention. It's very important that you are willing to have those hard conversations. Because you're the biggest support system that they have. And because that's the case, you need to be the biggest honest mirror to a certain extent. All right, so listen, let's do a quick Q&A. Now, before I wrap up, I just want to answer just a few quick questions that I think that a lot of you guys might want to know right now, and it's probably sitting on your mind. Even though this is not live, it's still in your mind, right? Now, question 1, what age should my kid start serious youth basketball training? Now, my honest answer for a trainer 15 years experience is that it depends on the kid. But generally speaking, serious individual skill training can start as young as 8 or maybe 9. I would just say as long as it's age appropriate and fun for the kid, I would just say you don't want the specialization pressure, before 12 or 13. Let kids become athletes. Let them develop a love for the game before you start treating it like some type of chore, some type of job. A lot of times those kids burn out early. Question 2, is AAU ever worth it? Yes, it is. All right. But again, like I said, only after the foundation is built, the fundamentals. And only if you choose the right program and the right coaches, trainers who actually develop the players in that program. AAU is a tool. Like any tool can be built, it can be used to build something great. But if put in the wrong hands, it could cause a lot of damage. So again, the tool is good depending on how you use it. Okay, number 3. How do I know if my kid actually has what it takes? So look, you gotta look for coachability. Talent, it can be developed. Coachability is harder to teach. A kid who listens, they adjust, they work hard, and they don't quit when things get difficult. They have what it takes. I think regardless of what their skills are right now at the current time, if they can do those things, I can work with them. I think any coach worth his weight can work with them. Now, how do I have an honest conversation with my kid about their future in basketball? You're the parent, you're the guardian, you're the support system. It's very easy. You make it hard. Just lead with love and not logistics. Start by asking them what they love about the game. Hey, what do you want to get out of this? What does your dream look like? Then listen more than you talk. I think the goal of those conversations really isn't to crush their dreams. It's really to kind of align your and their expectations together so you all can build a tangible plan together. Next question. What's the difference between a real developer and someone just taking my money? I would say a real developer, a real trainer, somebody who takes it seriously and not just take the money, they track progress. Then they communicate with you specifically about what your kid is working on and the reasons behind it. They also adjust their approach based upon your kid's individual needs. It can't be cookie cutter. They tend to build the confidence and not just the skills of the kid. And then they care about your kid, not as a person, not just as a player, but as a person. If you're not seeing all these things during the sessions and everything like that, then you might be paying the wrong person. That's all I say. Now, let's close it here, okay? Let's go ahead and bring this thing home. I had a great time with y'all, but now you got things to do. You're busy people, right? So listen, here's what I want you guys to take away from it tonight. All right, number 1. Yes, the youth basketball system is broken, but you don't have to be a victim of the system. What it takes is just you having the right information in order to make better informed decisions. Number 2, real youth basketball development follows a specific sequence. There's assessment, there's foundation, there's competition, then there's visibility. If you skip any of those steps, you're going the wrong way. You're going to be wasting your time and wasting your valuable funds. Number 3, your kid needs you as a parent locked in. Basketball is a team game. Basketball training, youth development is a team game. And believe it or not, you are one of the most important players, if not the most, on that team. Now listen, now we come to an end. Here's what I want to offer you. All right, listen, I've built a community myself, right? Specifically with parents who are serious about doing this whole youth basketball thing the right way. These parents, they want real information, they want real guidance, they want real conversation about youth development, and they don't want all the hype and the sales pitch and the advertisement and the elite this and that. And they don't want that, right? Now, right now, because it's new, right, I'm letting in the first 100 members in free. That number is filling up fast. So listen, after 100, that's it. First 100. After that, it's going to flip into a paid community. But inside this community, you'll get access to ongoing conversations with me directly. I'll be in every day. Also, you'll get multiple resources, guides, checklists, books, templates of things that I have helped me over the last 15 years of real development players with the youth. You'll also be able to get early access to webinars and content just like this. And again, this is for parents who are trying their best to do right by their players and their athletes. So listen, if you're one of the first 100, this costs you nothing. Again, just click the link below this video and you can get it in now. But here's the thing. I spent 15 years figuring out my strategies and everything on the courts across Chicagoland. And I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot of hard lessons. I watched kids succeed, and I watched some kids fail to a system that pretty much didn't care about them, which way or the other. But I said to say this: you don't have to figure this out alone. You don't have to, like Michael said, you're not alone. I am here with you. So listen, let's build your kid together the right way together. You know, but again, I'm Caleb Sauce Harris. I want you to stay real. I want you to stay locked in, and take me up my offer. I want to see you in the community. But until next time, I'm out.